Welcome to my coding school. This is section 2 of Nodejs tutorial for beginners. So here we are going to look at what do we need to know before we can start using Nodejs. So here, remember that Nodejs is simply a JavaScript runtime that runs outside the browser. So you will need to know a little bit of JavaScript. And here I have compiled a list of some of the key topics that you should cover. We have here the lexical structure, which is basically how a program runs. And then these are expressions. Expressions are the statements that make up our programs, and they evaluate to a value. And then we have data types, things like arrays and objects and then other things. And then we have classes that are blueprints of objects. And then we have variables, which are simply different types of data that can be represented in a computer. And then functions. Functions are a block of code that execute when they are invoked or called. And then this operator, which has some bit of concept that we have to understand, as it will behave differently depending on which part of the code in which it is used. And then we have arrow functions, which are a new feature in ECMAScript 2015. And then we have loops. Loops, these are blocks of code that repeat the instruction a number of times. For example, the for loops, then the while loops, and then the for in, and so on. And then we have the scope. This is refers to the part where the program runs. It can be global or it can be local, depending. For example, in a function, we have a functional scope, and then we have arrays. Arrays are objects that capture data that is the same. For example, you can have an array of cars, and then we have template returns. These are used to work with strings, especially if you have to inject in dynamic data. Then we have the strict mode that allows us to run JavaScript in a more modern way, avoiding some common errors. And then we have ECMAScript 2015, which is year 6 and beyond. So those are the new features in the language, for example, arrow functions. And then we have asynchronous JavaScript. So we have two concepts here. We have synchronous and then asynchronous. So synchronous simply means that the code that blocks itself, and then asynchronous is the non-blocking code. So all of these are things that we have explained here. They are synchronous, meaning that they will be executed from top to bottom. But here, with the synchronous programming, uh, the, the program only execute when it is called or invoked. So here, you will need to know about callbacks, and then timers, and then promises, and then a sync and a wait, and then closures, and then the event loop. A little bit advanced, but you can understand them with a little bit of examples. So this is it for this section. I'm going to see you in the very next video.